What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of Player Ratings as we lost 1-0 to Burnley at Turf Moor last night. And let's get straight into it, and let's start off with Hugo Lloris. 6s all round from us. Not at fault for anything for the goal yesterday, I don't believe. Did show good handling at some points throughout the game, but was hardly tested, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, some say he could have come for the cross for the goal. Would have been very difficult for him to have claimed that, though, I would say. And he did make a very good save just before Burnley did take the lead from Jay Rodriguez from a header, which he parried away. But yeah, as you said, other than that, didn't have too many anything too difficult to deal with. So give him a 6.
Yeah. Moving on to Ben Davis. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 7. And I thought defended fairly well throughout the night down his side. Got forward a couple of times as well. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good performance. Not much really to say.
Yeah, didn't have too much to deal with Aaron Lennon down the right-hand side. Had a fairly quiet game. I thought going forward, I didn't see enough of him for me. I want to see him, especially in these kind of games, more on the attacking third. I want to see him a bit more on the ball. But yeah, didn't have too much to deal with. So, decent display.
Moving on to Cuti Romero. 7s all round from us. And I thought he had quite a strong game, as he usually does. Getting in front of defenders, being aggressive, challenging players in the air quite positively as well. A number of times getting forward, contributing to attack. I mean, he played like a second striker sometimes during the game, getting up and really trying to help the attack, marauding forward and always being an option there up front when we were going on our attacks. But he was at fault for the goal being beaten in the air by Ben Mee.
Yeah, but he was yeah, you're right. He did get beaten, but he was our strongest defender, probably on the ball in the final third on the day. There was a few moments, for example, in the second half, Lucas Moura has a volley, and it was his header that set that up. And a few times he was dribbling into the final third, looking to cause a bit of disruption, and it nearly worked out a couple of times. Unfortunately, he was the one who got beaten for the header, so he'll have to learn from that. But I think another positive display overall.
Yeah. Eric Dyer, 7s all round from us. Another good display from Eric Dyer, in my opinion. Commanding, organising that defence, which played fairly well, to be honest. A few times he was marauding out from the defence as well, bringing the ball forward, spraying his lovely passes left and right. A few really nice passes to Emerson and to Ryan Sessegnon. And yeah, just another good display from Eric Dyer, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought he kept Weghorst fairly quiet whenever he was up against him as well, and his passing range was pretty good. Yeah, the only thing I'd say, you know, on the ball when we're trying to dominate possession, apart from the long passes, I think his passes into the midfielders weren't at their best. But I thought he had a pretty good display overall, to be honest.
Ryan Sessegnon on the left wing back. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Look, I think he was getting up the pitch fairly well. Defensively, I don't really remember him doing much defensively, to be honest, but I thought with his attacking display, I expected a lot more from him. I mean, there was one time where he beat his man and got a cross in, but apart from that, I thought it looked like he just lacked a bit of confidence to take on his man, to get in that cross, to impact positively in the final third. So that's what I marked him down on.
Yeah, and he gave the free kick away for the goal as well, which was a silly free kick up against Aaron Lennon, which he didn't really need to give away. And we all know that set pieces for Burnley is where they get a lot of their joy in, and so it proved. I thought going forward, yeah, he got a couple of bright moments, especially bursting his way into the box between two players and putting a ball right across the face of the goal, which no one was there to tap home. Unfortunately, they picked out Kulu at the back post, but want to see more from Ryan Sessegnon in these kind of games where teams are penned in and he has opportunities to really attack down that left-hand side and show his quality. Didn't really do it. And there was even one moment where he had a chance inside the box to control the ball and maybe get a shot away. And I don't know, he just misjudged what was happening. And
that was late on, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just completely misjudged the cross and miscontrolled the ball, and the chance was gone. And he needs to improve on those moments.
Definitely. Rodrigo Bentancur, Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. Probably not his best showing in a Spurs shirt. I mean, he hasn't been here that long, but he's performed much better than this in the past. I wouldn't say it was a terrible display or a bad display even. I just thought that he just didn't impact the game as he has done in previous games. Passing was okay, but it all came down to that moment where he basically did the splits and ultimately went off at halftime injured. So he only got 45 minutes. Maybe the team would have benefited if he did stay on for the 90 minutes, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and I hope he's not out for too long if it is an injury.
Yeah, I think first half he was all right. There were a couple of moments, a bit like against Man City, where he's losing the ball in dangerous areas. But I did think he was actually battling pretty well in the centre. I think his passing could have been a bit quicker, which is probably why we didn't create too many chances in the first half. But overall, it was a solid showing. But yeah, as you say, like he's had much better performances, and I think his lack of maybe urgency on the ball stopped us potentially creating more opportunities, I would say.
Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 7. And I've seen a lot of people actually dig out Højbjerg for his performance yesterday. I'm not too sure it's warranted, to be honest. I think that he was our most aggressive man in the middle of the park. He was the one standing up to the Burnley midfielders when they were being aggressive and stuff. He was really getting stuck in and did a really important role for the team yesterday, I felt. On the ball, maybe he was found wanting more than not, but I still thought he was doing a really important job for the team yesterday.
Yeah, and I think, again, off the ball, he was pretty solid, I thought, up against Brownhill. And although Brownhill probably had got a bit too much joy than I'd have liked, but I think in the second half he was pressing quite well in the middle of the park and winning the ball back in really good positions. I just think on the ball, a bit of lack of quality, I think, from him, unfortunately, in this game. Maybe he was pressed too much, but when under pressure, his quality seems to disappear a lot of the time. And I think it happened again yesterday, unfortunately.
All right, let's move on to Emerson Royale. 6 from Sim, 5 from me. And it was actually one of his better displays in a Spurs shirt, got to say that. Maybe a 5 is a bit too harsh, maybe a 6 on reflection. But he was getting up and down the pitch. Let's talk about defensively first, because I thought he defended really well up against, I can't remember who was up against. McNeil. That was it, and a really good player in McNeil as well. So I think he defended really well for the most part, but it was going forward where he was left wanting a little bit. I mean, he was always an option there on that right-hand side, and I remember one good cross that he put in, but unfortunately the quality in his final ball and the quality of the end product there was just not there.
Yeah, and I actually think Dwight McNeil started to get a lot more joy once he went off the pitch as well. He started to get a lot more dribbles in and around the area, and he started to find a lot more success down that side once Emerson got off the pitch. And I agree. I think first off, he was probably our brightest player, actually. He was the one actually on the right-hand side finding a few passes into the box and trying to create a few openings. But it was very, very difficult for him. As you say, the crossing, there was a big lack of quality. But when you got 4 big defenders in there, you have to be really, really precise to find a man and get any joy. And unfortunately, he wasn't that. But I did think he was a lot of people panning him for it yesterday's display, but I don't think it was by the problem at all, to be honest.
Fans need a scapegoat, don't they? So Emerson's the flavour of the month at the moment. But anyway, Hyung Min Son, Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 4. And yeah, I thought it wasn't a good display from Sonny, unfortunately, after the really good display against Man City. But these kind of games are just not his game, unfortunately. He was trying to work in the tight spaces with not so much joy. He was being pressed a lot. He was being harried a lot, being hassled a lot. And I think he buckled a bit. And there are a few moments where, Kane's going through on goal or different kind of situations arose for Sonny. And I felt like he just dawdled on the ball a bit too long or chose the wrong option. But there were some good moments in there from Sonny, but ultimately not good enough for me.
Yeah, with the guy with Son's quality, you want to see more from him, and especially in those moments where he has Kane to slip in and he decides not to, and he ends up looking for a shot and there's no shot on. That's ultimately very frustrating. But a lot of our good moments did come from him. I think Kulu's effort was from a Son breakaway, and there were a few moments in the second half where he went on a couple of dribbles and tried to open up space. But unfortunately, no. I think when Son ends the game with no shots, that's a problem. So he has to, in these kind of games, it's very, very difficult for him to find space, and that's where he thrives. So I'm not surprised that he struggled.
Let's move on to Dejan Kulusevski. Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 6. And when you're talking about the front three, obviously it wasn't a great game. We didn't create much, didn't have many shots on target, but I think out of the front three, Kulusevski was probably the most productive out of the three. He was trying to make stuff happen on like a right-sided number 10 role as he was for the opening hour. And then he moved to right wing-back. And I actually thought at right wing-back and at the right kind of number 10, he was providing most for us and looked the most dangerous out of the three.
Yeah, as I said, I think when he moved to right wing back, they did start to get a bit more joy offensively, Burnley down that side, but definitely he was providing a bit more quality on the ball than Kulu was, although he did than Emerson was, although he did have to cut inside a bit too much for my liking, which was a bit frustrating. But a few of our best moments, especially in the first half, our only bright moments came from Kulu finding a bit of space in the box. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make the most of it. And obviously, he nearly scored just before Burnley scored, and that could have been the turning point in the game.
Yeah. And last but not least, Harry Kane, 5s all round from us. And it was a very, very tough evening for Harry Kane. Everywhere he went, he had 3 or 4 Burnley players on him. They completely marked him out of the game. There were moments where he spilled away and got into good positions, but unfortunately, other players weren't able to find him. He did have a header early in the second half that cannoned across the crossbar as well. It was very hard for him with no kind of room and space with so many defenders on him all the time.
Yeah, he had about 4 men on him every time, didn't he, Harry Kane? They stifled him, and they did a very good job on him, to be fair. They followed him in every time he came deep, and they left no space for anyone to run into him behind if he was being tracked. Most things he tried were shots from distance, which weren't coming off. So he came close when he was hit the bar, and also his switches of play were still on point, but it was very, very difficult for him to exploit those late runs in the box when there's no space for him, and he was absolutely stifled yesterday, and he had no answer to it.
Yeah, you got to give credit to Burnley for their game plan, because it really definitely worked in regards for Harry Kane's game. But let's move on to the substitutes. Harry Winks came on at half-time for the injured Bentancur. 6s all round from us for Harry Winks, and actually, when he came on, I actually think he provided positivity to the team. He was getting the ball in those kind of mid areas in their half, and he was putting good deliveries in the box, really good deliveries in the box, and quite a few of them as well. Tried to keep the ball ticking over in the midfield as well, but unfortunately nothing really came out of his good work yesterday.
Yeah, he was providing a bit more forward passing, actually, it felt, the other two, especially when a couple of times from short corners, someone would roll out to him and he found some really delightful chipped crosses into the back post, which very nearly paid off for us. It wasn't for some very good Burnley defending, and especially late on, he was actually the one trying to play in between the lines, trying to have a bit of goal, but unfortunately, whenever he'd pass it to someone who was under pressure, they would more than often than not lose the ball, and it would come to nothing. And especially with the space afforded to our forward players, it was very hard for him to pick anyone out, but I did think he tried and was more successful passing forward into dangerous areas than the other midfielders.
And last but not least, Lucas Moura, 4s all round from us. He's lost his space in the team to Kulusevski, so I mean, you really thought he would come on with a point to prove, try and grab that space back. I mean, he came on with a lot of energy and desire, but nothing really was coming on for him, and he lost the ball quite a few times. Didn't really impact much in the final third or going forward. And yeah, Lucas got to do better, to be honest, especially when he comes on and at the state of the game it was.
Yeah, I thought it was disappointing. He had one real opportunity near the end of the game, which he had a half volley from the edge of the area, which he ballooned over the bar, which a bit of better technique, has to be getting that on target for me. But yeah, he kind of came on and was a bit all over the place, didn't really impact the game positively at all. And he was misplacing touches, and passes were a bit inaccurate. It wasn't a great cameo, I felt, from Lucas. So I felt Kulu went to right wing back and Lucas went to right a bit central, and he wasn't really getting involved as much.
Steven Bergwijn did come on, but we're not going to give him a rating because he was just on for 10 minutes.
He did have a one of our 2 shots on target, though.
Yeah, he did. So what were you going to give him if it was a rating?
Still 5, but
yeah.
Still.
Anyway, let's move on to Antonio Conte. A lot has been spoken about Antonio the last few hours. We've given him a 5 all round, and He picked the same lineup as he did against Manchester City, and no one had problems with that, seeing as how good that performance was against Man City. But like we say, different games prove different issues, and the issues Man City prove are completely the polar opposite to the issues that Burnley choose. So we had to find a different way round this game, and we failed to do that. Unfortunately, we were pretty numb going forward. And Antonio's got to look at kind of the way he sets up his teams to really combat these teams that sit in a low block. Maybe he doesn't have the tools to do it, but when you look at other teams, potentially, you just got to figure out new ways of playing. And I think maybe he is too set in this 3-4-3 system, and maybe we should be looking at different kind of ways to beat different kinds of opposition. In terms of the changes, I think he was forced into that Winks change, and he did try his utmost in that second half to try and galvanise the team to go forward and get a goal over the line. He brought on Steven Bergwijn, obviously with 10 minutes to go. He brought on Lucas. I mean, at one stage of the game, we had literally all our attackers on the pitch. So he did try everything to get us over the line, but like he says, maybe sometimes it's not enough.
Yeah, and he tried. As you say, he tried everything. He put Kulusevski at right wing back. He put Bergwijn at left wing back. He really couldn't have gone any more offensively at the end of the game to try and get a goal. Unfortunately, Burnley scored when we were on top, and we were kind of getting some chances and looking like it was our best moment of the game, and then Burnley go ahead and get a goal. So that was very, very disappointing. But I think he'll be disappointed as well with the way we gave away some silly set pieces, which proved very, very costly. And he's got to be watching out for that when you're playing against a team like Burnley, who are very good at set pieces. And again, he hasn't solved that set piece issue, which we've had now for a while, especially this season. We conceded a lot of goals from set pieces. And that's a quite worrying trend. And, when you end a game against Burnley with 2 shots on target, questions will be asked, and I'm sure he'll be asking them himself. And he clearly is with all these comments he's making. But, that's why I gave him a 5. I think, you would think he could have done more to create more chances, but we weren't able to do it.
Yeah. All right. So that is our player ratings. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of our ratings, and also let me know your ratings as well. Stay tuned, because the 5 takeaways is coming your way as well today. So like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.